Hey folks, Shelby Palmer, Cedar Park Overhead Door in Marble Falls. Today we're talking about pre-assembly and how fast can you install a garage door opener. We're going to be working on a Liftmaster 81600. This is a chain drive with a DC motor in it. It's very quiet. Think about how quiet the windows are in your car rolling up and down. Outstanding opener, about a 20-year lifespan on it. Next up, we're going to show you what tools, parts, and how to get this thing installed as quickly as possible. So for tools today, I'm going to show you what I use, and there really is no right kit. This is just what I prefer. So I've got 3 sockets, 7/16, ½ inch, 9/16 with a drill adapter. Sometimes we will use a stapler, sometimes we won't. I love the 6-way screwdrivers. This gives you multiple opportunities with just one tool. A 1/4 inch nut driver. This one's on a long 6-inch stem, and then a ½ inch nut driver. That's also on a long 6-inch stem. A pair of angle nose pliers. These are compound angle nose pliers, so it really helps you cut through thick wire, possibly cables. An open end 7/16 inch wrench, electrical tape, and my very favorite tool, the Makita 18 volt XDT 13 class. 2, 1. So what's very important about installing a garage door opener is your initial setup. I've got the rail laid out right here. You'll notice I've got my motor head box right here, my tools set up over to the left, and this is because once I get everything open and ready to go, I'm gonna sit down right here and I've got access to anything that I need. Let's go. So sometimes you'll actually have to spin this rail around. And in this case, it just came out right. So I'm gonna look down here and be sure I've got plenty of slack on this nut. It just lets me stay up top. So now we're gonna go ahead and open up the motor head box and get it prepped, ready to go. And what I'm doing right now with this box is I'm actually making myself a trash can so that I don't have to clean up after the fact. Some folks enjoy leaving the motor head if they've got an area that might have stuff down there so you don't scratch the bottom of the opener. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this opener cleaned up a little bit. We're just going to pull that tape off and that styrofoam. And now we're on to a ½ inch socket on our impact. I'm going to pick the whole rail up, go around the chain. And I'm using my foot in front of the opener so that I can use leverage to get that first bolt started. There's the first one. There's the second. I'm going to go ahead and transition over to my 1/4 inch driver. And I'm going to be looking for my top cap. Recently, I found out from one of my very good friends that Liftmaster started putting these fasteners in the motor, so they're now located in the top. And this will be the first time I've ever used this method. They used to come in a plastic bag, which I like a little bit better, but such is progress. Sorry about that, business never stops. So now I've got the top side of my motor pre-assembled. We're going to start on the hardware side of things right now. So the lube, some people like using lube, some people don't. I'm not a lube guy, it just gets my hands dirty. We always hook up Liftmaster MyQ. Don't take this off if it's a new construction, because otherwise the customer won't know that they can run their garage door opener off of their cell phone. My measurement on a 7-foot door, I put the plastic piece at my elbow, and then where my fingers touch right here, I close this. And the reason this is important is if you have this cord hanging all the way down, what it's gonna do is eventually get caught in someone's door and you're gonna tear up their door and possibly the motor, more importantly, their door. I toss that down so it's out of the way. Now we're gonna go ahead and start working on our J-bar assembly. To do this, you're gonna need nuts, bolts, washers, and a 1/2 inch socket on your impact. So we open up the bag, and again, as you see, everything as soon as I'm done with it, it's going to the trash. 12-inch radius, my rule is I look at these two holes, I skip this first one, and then move down here like this. So you should have one hole, and then your bolt should go through. This works great as a pre-measurement for 12-inch radius. You're gonna put your 5/16 bolts, which is a 1/2-inch head, through the J-bar assembly. Very important, you always add these lock washers. If you don't, for you newer technicians, after a matter of weeks or months, this will come loose and you will go back on a recall because this is scissoring back and forth, and I have seen it fall down and bump some very expensive vehicles. So 1/2-inch nuts and bolts right there. I'm gonna go ahead and get back on my 1/2-inch socket, and we're gonna tighten these down to refusal. There's refusal, there's refusal. Sometimes you'll have to use a 1/2-inch open-end wrench to go ahead and stop that from spinning. So now we're gonna continue our pre-assembly. We've got our opener right here. And so the up arrow is gonna go towards the top up here. We're gonna use our pin and then one of these ring keys. I really like the fact that Liftmaster started using these years ago. I wish Jeannie was that smart. I can't tell you how many fingers I'll cut using the old cotter keys. So this is pre-assembled, and I'm gonna get it to the correct location, down by the end of the door. So now I have my header bracket, my infrared beams, my wall button. My wall button, I'm gonna throw over by my imaginary door, and we're gonna start working on the infrared beams. So, something that will speed you up, and they've changed this also. You used to have to unwrap from 3 times from the inside. So we've got our infrared beam here. We're gonna take our new bolts, which are long. You're gonna come through using your wing nut and get this tightened down. And right here, I'm taking some extra time to be sure that is square horizontally and then also vertically. That way, whenever I attach to the tracks, my infrared beams are already aligned. So I'm level there and then also here. And we're gonna throw that over the corner of our imaginary door and move on to the next one. Missing the bolt, there it is. Once again, we're gonna take care to get it squared up right now. Some technicians will use nuts and bolt, or will use pliers to tighten that down so it never comes loose. The downside is whenever a customer calls in after they bump it with a trash can, they won't be able to loosen that and adjust that without you driving out there for a needless service call or a cheap service call. So now we're gonna start transitioning towards the end of the door. To do this, I'm gonna have my long pin, my short pin, and then both of my rings with the header bracket. I'm also gonna look down and see what I need to take off of what may or may not be an existing infrared beam. So whatever tools I need to do the infrared beams down there. In this case, we're gonna pretend we have everything on us. We're gonna go ahead and start on the pre-assembly there. So I'm gonna need a 1/2 inch. I always take my angle nose pliers with me and my screwdriver, also with my electrical tape, because this is gonna be my next step whenever I get to the infrared beams. So here we are, we've got a screwdriver, header bracket, 2 pins, 2 rings, a pre-assembled J-bar, and then also a red cord with my angle nose pliers. I'm gonna put the rail up underneath my foot. Put my pin through the J-bar, install my ring on the pin, and now I'm gonna go ahead and feed through my red cord. And I'm also gonna look down here because sometimes these things come loose. Liftmaster, that is not gonna work. We're gonna fix that real quick so that we're good to go. So now I'm gonna pull down and release, slide that all the way back to the motor head. Now here we are, we've got lots of slack on this chain. I've got my 1/2 inch. I'm gonna push this inside and be sure that my chain is sectioned one way correctly. And I needed to put a 1/2 of a turn on it to get it to where it wasn't twisted. So over time, you kind of learn where this needs to go. And there you are. If you're really picky, you can straighten that back out, but that way you're not sitting back and forth with an open end wrench. Last thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and install this header bracket. And yes, I install it upside down. It's for a reason, because we install the openers with the door in the open position and actually do this less. It eliminates 2 trips back and forth. So now we're gonna go to pretend mode. We've got infrared beams over here. We're going to take these infrared beams, we're going to mount them on the tracks, and then we're going to go ahead and terminate them properly. Very important.